All right, let's pile it on. Let's get out of here. That's a lot of fish.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Mecha and Monster Mondays, and today we've got a very special episode as we're covering The Transformers, the movie. Yes, that's how you say it. Why is the there? I don't know. Ask like fucking Justin Timberlake from The Social Network. And with me, I have a very, very special guest.
Hi, I'm Nick Hiratsuka. I'm a director. I've known Luke for a long, long time, but even more than that, I'm a big Transformers guy. In fact, one of my bigger claims to fame here on YouTube is I had a series called Transcrafters that got a ton of views back in the day, but that all just kind of sprung from my love of Transformers. Everything from G1 to even the Michael Bay films and all their many flaws.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that was the biggest reason why I brought you on for this episode in specific, because, for one, we could have done the Michael Bay films, but also, I really did not want to have to do 2.5 hours of notes on a film that, like, I think we would both kind of be like, it's fine.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, if it were just the Transformer scenes from that first movie, great. I don't know if I need to talk about the donut scene or the Megan Fox fixing up the car part or any of that stuff.
Which, who knows, maybe, you know what, maybe we will get to that at some point, but also, it's not going to be anytime soon. Sorry to disappoint you guys, but yeah, I brought you on because of, well, for one, I know your love of Transformers, and also kind of ostensibly, like, I'd say kind of Transcrafters is sort of like your tribute to the series in a lot of ways. And also because I feel like doing this episode is very funny, because I remember when you were making like one of the episodes, and I don't remember if this actually was something that was added in an episode or if you just got me to record this for the sake of recording it, but because of the third Transformers film involving Lyndon Johnson, you got me to voice Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's in the first episode of season 3, and the best part is, it technically, LBJ wasn't in the movie, but when I looked at the timeline, it's like, well, he would have been president during this scene here, so he really should be the one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like that. It wasn't like explicitly discussed in that movie, but like technically speaking, he would have been president during like that period of time, which that segment of the movie takes place in. But
which is hilarious.
it is fucking bizarre. Also, you could go check that out now, and you can hear me do a barely a Lyndon Johnson impression. It is like doesn't even qualify, I'd say, at that point, but. Yeah, today we're talking about the Gen 1 film, Transformers. I'm just going to call it Transformers the movie, because I don't want to say The Transformers the movie all the time, because that's like, it's like the most awkward way of saying it. But before we get real deep into the movie itself, a little bit of production history. The film itself was directed by Nelson Shin, a South Korean animation director who worked on the series. And the series itself was created by Hasbro, who started up the toy line that became so famous, which we might discuss a little bit here as well. But was also produced by Toei Animation, who you might know for a lot of anime kind of series in Japan, which, when watching the film this time around especially, I kind of was having that a bit in the back of my head, because I was like, man, this shit just kind of looks like colorful Gundam, basically. But a interesting fact, and something that, like, watching this time around was kind of gave me a new perspective on the film, was knowing that a lot of the film was made to merchandise a new line of characters that were coming out around the time, and with that also a discontinuation of a major amount of characters that were already in the original series, which we'll get to that. We will definitely get to that. And another note along those lines is that originally the script did not have Optimus die, but, and I quote, Hasbro ordered it to happen. So yes, Hasbro fucking old yeller fucking Optimus Prime.
And also probably one of the stupidest studio mandates I've ever heard of.
Yeah, it's like it would be the equivalent of I was gonna say kill Iron Man, but then I was like, wait, no, they actually did that though, and that was kind of good in context. Well, I guess it would be like killing Iron Man in like Iron Man 2, and then
or the first Avengers movie,
or the first Avengers.
All the Avengers.
Yeah, and to say the least, Hasbro did not expect the shock that it got from several children. One in which supposedly did not speak for a week because of the death of Optimus Prime, which, I mean, take of that what you will, but that is kind of powerful that a film could do that to someone.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of this also is noteworthy because of the fact that one of the other aspects of the film that's sort of interesting is a lot of voice talent was brought in, some of it from the series, some of it more so kind of like celebrity voices like you kind of see in a lot of animation nowadays, but one in specific is that this has the final role of Orson Welles, recorded 5 days before his death. And I don't have the full quote with me, but I do remember there was a article profiling Orson Welles right before his death where he was talking about, I played a universe-eating robot. This is my life. That was ostensibly what he said.
But damn, did he kill it. Like,
yeah.
What a great voice for Unicron.
It really is.
It's just insane that he said yes.
It is insane that he did say yes. Also, it is kind of funny, I have to add, though, that there is this many, like, famous voices that are brought into this film, but because of the fact that all Transformers have, like, a synthesized filter over it, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. Because I was like... I saw Leonard Nimoy plays Galvatron, and then Galvatron showed up for a bit, and I was like, oh wait, yeah, shit, that was Leonard Nimoy. I didn't even realize it while I was watching it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, funny note about him, I'm pretty sure he also then came back for Transformers 3 as the voice of Sentinel.
Oh, really?
So he's done 2 Transformer movies.
Interesting. 2 of very different quality levels, to say the least. But, yeah, that's ostensibly the history of the movie itself, but there's a lot more history about, like, the toy line itself that I'd say I kind of want to bring up because I feel like it's relevant to, like, some of at least my discussion of the film, because Transformers initially, we also watched a little bit of a documentary right before recording this episode, so I kind of got, like, a gist of it.
The Toys That Made Us is the name of it. If anyone wants to watch it on Netflix, it's one of the episodes. It's all about Transformers from the very inception of the toy line all the way through to the Michael Bay films.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like a pretty comprehensive, like, coverage of it. But one of the things I did not know about it beforehand was that the creation of Transformers started off as America trying to introduce G.I. Joe to post-World War II Japan, which is baffling in so many ways, but is also weirdly fitting in a element of discussion I think we'll get into later on, which, with that said, I think now is probably the best time to just get right into the film itself, which my first thought is, man, this children's film has a lot of genocide in it.
My first note is it starts surprisingly in the most Michael Bay way I could imagine, with Unicron just destroying a planet like it's a natural disaster movie.
Yeah, like just destroying it, like, completely with, like, people still on it. I will say, though, it is funny that they add, like, cartoon chomp sound effects as he's, like, destroying this planet.
Oh my god, the sound design is insane.
The sound design is interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the whole movie, but that's such a great example.
like, I will say, like, when I first watched this, I really, really like this film, but, like, I think this time around I've started getting a sense of the tonal dissonance in a lot of ways I didn't realize the first time around, and I think that opening moment just, like, kind of sells it, because it's like, yeah, we want to do, like, real grim, kind of, like, violent material for the story, but this is also for, like, little children, so we don't want to make it, like, that scary, but we want it to also make it scary.
Yeah, which, I mean, that also has to be the reason why it's not Cybertron that he's eating, but it's still a planet of, sentient robots. Could you imagine if those were, like, organic beings, how much more disturbing that would
Yeah,
have been.
I was gonna say, it's like, I was like thinking, I remember, I forgot about the main kid's dad, who was like off on another
Spike.
Yeah, Spike. Spike's dad.
Yeah. Can we name people Spike again, by the way? That's always been my thought whenever I watch G1. It's like Spike is a name that you never hear unless it's somebody's dog.
Yeah, it's either someone's dog or one of the Koopa kids, basically.
Yeah.
So, like, name kid Spike. It's fun. I will say, it'll totally not come with them being bullied for it late in their early childhood. We trust us, you know.
Especially if you give them a mohawk.
Exactly. We are reliable sources here at Mecha and Monster Mondays, okay? Trust us. But I distinctly remember at one point I was like, they do kind of sell the possibility of his dad just like getting fucking eaten by a Unicron, and it's just so funny to me that I'm just like, dude, he's like a human person. But then again, I was also thinking about it, but it's like, but then again, like, by all accounts, like, so, like, this is something that I kind of discussed in a previous podcast where I talked about the Iron Giant, whereas, like, a robot that is able to think and feel is ostensibly has a soul, right? All those Transformers had souls.
Oh yeah, every one of them, and all massacred. Again, the shot that I can't get out of my head is the one where you see that spaceship leaving the planet, and you think it's gonna get away, but then the gravitational pull.
Yeah, like it baits you into being like, oh no, it's fine. They're gonna get off. Oh,
and then
okay.
just nom nom
yeah,
nom nom.
just fucking just. It was like, did you ever see the film Nope?
Yeah.
I was thinking, 'cause, like, it would be so much more fucked up if this thing was organic, because there'd just be like that one scene where they're all like getting sucked up into the alien monster's mouth. But like, yeah, like, just what a way to start, you know?
Especially for a kids film. Like,
yeah,
it's insane because I'm pretty sure the order is you see Galvatron come into frame, eat this planet, and then it goes, the Transformers! And then the opening credits roll.
Like it blares out fucking like hard rock metal song while the title shows up. And it's so funny. That's another thing that I find infinitely fascinating, because you mentioned sound design, and I think on a whole level this film is bizarre to me, not just because of like the occasional cartoony sound effects, but the soundtrack choices are odd, because for one, like, you know, there's that, and then later on in the film, a sequence where like everyone is getting like murdered horrifically. Like, you see like characters that are technically like beloved within the series like foam at the mouth and die. You just hear hours back in the like this like AC/DC ass track that's like playing over, like, oh man, that character I love is now dead.
Yep.
Cool.
I mean, and you gotta love, you got the touch, you got the touch, you got the power.
Oh god, that's okay. So like, I need to tell you a story about that specific song that's so fucking bizarre to me, because I saw a film before I'd seen the Transformers film called Boogie Nights, that has notably Mark Wahlberg, who was in the Transformers films later on. And in the film, there's like a moment where, like, you know, you're seeing this character's success like over the years kind of grow. And one of the things that his character does is sing a cover of "You Got the Touch, You Got the Power."
Fucking awesome.
And I just and when I saw the Transformers movie, the only thing I could think of while several characters were getting horribly massacred was Mark Wahlberg singing it while John C. Reilly is like dancing in the background. And I was just like, again, tonal dissonance is the word, is the phrase here, because I'm just like, man, something, I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know how to feel about this at all.
Yeah. I'll say the one last note I'll give before we leave the topic of music is my favorite interpretation of the Transformers theme, and maybe even any track in a Transformers related thing, is from the War for Cybertron video game. Their credit track.
Oh, yeah.
Because it goes so hard on the original opening credit, which also, I can't believe I forgot about this. The actual opening theme song to the G1 show, the very classic Transformer song.
Yeah.
Have you really listened to it and how insane it is?
It is a very good theme song, honestly.
But also, like, the editing of it is just so choppy. Like, I watched a video a while back of a musician playing it, and just, like, the beat is constantly getting off. Like it's like someone had a 1.5-minute track that they cut down to 40 seconds, but didn't keep any of the like rhythm in mind. So it just constantly changes beat and syncopation and everything. It's insane when you actually try and listen to it as a song. But
yeah, it's like one of those cases of like, oh shit, we forgot we had to make this like 30 seconds.
Yeah, but then getting back to what I was saying, the War for Cybertron version of that song is awesome because it goes like full rock metal with like the opening goes like burner 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 burner. It's like so awesome. It's my favorite interpretation of that song, but also probably any song in like any of the Transformer movies.
That's fair. I was gonna say it's like, for one, it is kind of the most iconic, but also because it is like such a strong like remake of it, it's like very much kind of like a highlight of the music.
So eat your heart out, Linkin Park and Imagine Dragon.
Wait, there was an Imagine Dragon song?
I'm pretty sure they did the music for the fourth movie.
Oh, that's probably why I don't remember it. Speaking of music, I just have to mention this because I'm me, and I would be ashamed of myself if I didn't, but so in the movie, at a later point in the story when Ultra Magnus basically becomes like the new Optimus Prime, there's a scene where he ostensibly dies, right? It is then followed up by Dare to Be Stupid by Weird Al. Which, again, when I first saw this, I thought I was having a stroke. I was like, there's no fucking way they actually put Dare to Be Stupid in this movie, right? I went out of my way to like make sure that like this wasn't like a joke edit that someone made where it's like that was the music that they replaced it. I looked it up and it was like, nope, that was the music that they played during that scene.
Yeah, I know. Because, like, again, you got the touch. I saw that scene before I watched the movie, and I thought it was a fan edit. Just because I found it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, the way they use music is so unorganic.
Yeah,
in a weird way, like, as odd of a choice as it is, it's made the scenes very memorable to me.
I was gonna say, it's like, it uses music in a way that, like, while I don't know if I would necessarily say it's fitting or good, it's so specific in a way where it's like, I can't think of anything else that uses the music the way it does. Mm-hmm. Again, I say that as a completely neutral way because you have you got the touch moment that is actually really, really cool, and then you have a Weird Al needle drop. Which is also extremely bizarre because that's like 2 minutes like after we had Eric Idle show up of Monty Python's The Holy Grail. But I'd say another thing that is worth noting is like the plot of this movie is sort of interesting to me. As someone whose only experience to G1 has really been like the first 3 episodes, which like I'd say like the show takes a bit more time with like stuff going on in terms of the plot more so than anything else. Meanwhile, this film, it seems like shit is just happening all the time at every point. It's like fucking like the only time in which there's like breathing room for like anything is when Optimus Prime dies, which is like fair, you know, Optimus Prime just died, so that's like a heavy moment to kind of linger on for a bit. But then it's immediately followed by Ultra Magnus, you are now Optimus Prime. Oh shit, we're being attacked again. We gotta leave.
In Act 2, where they have the A plot and the B plot on the 2 different planets, like again, is so action packed and quick, and also like not super relevant to the plot.
No. But like it's like it is a detour in like, I mean, so like there's a lot of like adventure films that have like detours but are still like engaging in a way where it's like you can see their relevance. Like for instance, like the Wizard of Oz, like you know, Dorothy's supposed to get to the Emerald City or whatever, right? But like, you know, she's always getting caught up with like other people's shit. But the thing is that they are characters that kind of come on along the journey, and like I don't think anyone they really meet comes along the journey with them by that point. Like, okay, another instance of how just like weirdly just like nihilistic this film is two of the characters. I don't remember their names, but
If you describe them, I might be able to help you out.
a character that ostensibly has like the biggest arc by doing like the big thing at the end.
Talking Hot Rod.
Yeah,
Who
Hot
becomes
Rod.
Rodimus Prime.
Yeah, Hot Rod. They go onto a planet where there's like a essentially like a court, like a evil court system going on, and one of the guys they meet is, I'm the last survivor of my planet. I am the last survivor of my planet, and they're like, oh damn dude, that sucks. And it's immediately followed by like he gets thrown into a pit of fucking like piranhas and dies horribly. And I just thought, like, why did you introduce us to that character?
Yeah, I'll also say another thing is, I'll say this, and I think we need to back up because we are kind of overlooking some big things that happened early in the film. But
Yeah.
on that same sequence, I can't believe I completely forgot that the Quintessons were in the movie, and that's the judge kind of creature with the three heads.
The multi-face of Judge, yeah.
Because that's actually a pretty big character in the lore of Transformers. And like, if you remember The Last Night, Quintessa, that stupid character, that was, I think, Michael Bay's version of that Judge character, which, if you think about it, has none of the fucking attributes.
No, she's just kind of like evil witch character archetype, whereas here it's like much more distinctive.
Yeah, and just the design of the Quintessons, the three heads with the three different personalities.
Yeah.
Like, I've always... is one of those characters that you don't see a lot of, at least as far as I can tell, in a lot of the more modern Transformers media. But I always think of as like one of the key players up there with your Unicrons in terms of the not Megatron antagonists in Transformers.
Yeah, like they like ostensibly like you have like Autobots and Decepticons, which are kind of like your status quo, but like those characters, from like what I understand, are almost kind of like demigod level, like kind of like authority over other characters ostensibly.
But anyway, the part I was referring to that I think we should go back and discuss a little bit more. 8 minutes in, Brawn, Prowler, Ratchet, and Ironhide are massacred and traumatized an entire generation.
Yeah.
And that's all before you even get to Earth.
Yeah, like, you don't get to Earth yet. You start off with, like, you know, you kind of have to start off with, like, Decepticons, like, starting bullshit to get, like, the story going from there. And, yeah, it is so... I haven't watched G1, but I can assume that, like, there wasn't much of any, like, characters dying on screen, or dying at all, really.
Not that I can recall. It's been a while since I watched G1, and I'm pretty sure I've seen, I want to say, all of Season 1 and a bit of Season 2, and if I remember correctly, the way it worked was Season 1 came out, Season 2 came out, then it was the movie, and then Season 3 was G2 with the new character.
Yeah, like a new generation started from there.
Yeah. So I've seen more than half of G1, and then the episodes that I've seen a couple of times, but I can't remember any, like, big deaths like that.
Yeah, and my assumption is that there probably was not, because they wanted to keep those characters, like, on the show so people know, like, hey, there's merchandise of these characters also that you can, you know, check out and buy, and
have episodes where they dedicate more time to different characters, so you'll be like, oh man, now I want to buy that toy.
Yeah. Like ostensibly have at least one episode for each character, which, like, there's several, so you could probably do, like, 50 episodes of that, honestly, which reminds me of something I will talk about later, but, yeah, like, I'm assuming, like, no death really happened, so, like...
And those are big characters, and also not, like, you know, nobody characters to kill off. I mean...
Yeah.
I consider... I've never been a huge fan of Brawn, but I like them, but Prowler, Ratchet, and Ironhide are pretty big names. Again,
yeah, like... You
know, Michael Bay films probably had something to do with it, but most people know Ratchet and Ironhide.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, those are... So, like, again, like, those characters are kind of like the status quo of, like, Autobots in, like, a lot of ways, where it's like, you know, people know Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, but then, like, the kind of more slightly nicher level is, like, characters like Ironhide and Ratchet, because, you know, like, they are somewhat notable, and like, you can actually define some elements of their character, besides being, like, they can turn into a train or something, also something I'll have to talk about later. But yeah, like it's interesting to me in that regard that like it's just like we made a movie and we need to get rid of the toy line. How do we find a way to kind of, you know, essentially pass the torch? Their way of passing the torch is these kids that are used to these characters just being alive, now they're not.
Yeah, it's a very dark way of doing it, which on the one hand, I give them props for having these cool stakes of like opening the film with Unicron eating a planet and giving Megatron one of the most like badass villain moments I've seen in a while, with him just walking in and massacring these big name characters on his way to Earth. But at the same time, there's a better way to do it. Like, the immediate thing that I thought of when the movie starts, you already have established that you have Autobots on Cybertron and Autobots on Earth. Mm-hmm. Is it not out of the question to say Optimus needs to take more oversight over the Cybertron side of things, so he leaves Hot Rod in charge of Earth, and with that he gets the promotion to Rodimus? Like, could you do that so you could still, like... You don't have to use the characters. I see it more like a Star Trek Voyager type of a thing, where it's now just a new adventure with new characters. Doesn't mean you have to massacre all the other characters.
It would be like the equivalent of, like, you know, to start off Star Trek Next Generation, they murdered the 1960s crew for no reason. But like, and also getting to the aspect of Earth, I have to say again, another tonal dissonance thing. You have like that scene, and then like almost immediately afterward, you get a shot of fucking Spike and Hot Rod, I believe.
Daniel and Hot Rod.
Daniel and Hot Rod, thank you. Are just fucking fishing. They're just fishing.
And it's just the funniest shot of seeing a little kid with a giant transformer, and the transformer's like pulling a salmon out of the water with a fishing rod.
Which is, it's just funny to me because, like, so, like, Daniel, you can cook and eat fish. But what the fuck is Hot Rod gonna do with a fish? I mean, like, look, I mean, he can do it for the sake of the enjoyment of just doing it, right? But, like, it's just funny to think about.
In my opinion, the funny thing to think about is when you have an alien robot that can turn into a car and you're hanging out with them, the activity you choose to do is fish? Yeah,
like, we literally could travel to, like, galaxies. We have the power to, like, fucking do the coolest shit, and Daniel, you decide to do fishing. I'm surprised Hot Rod doesn't say something like, "Gee, Daniel, this is kind of boring. I'd rather be going out here getting my mecha circuits like tried out," or something like that. Also, another thing on top of that is something that, like, I never knew how to articulate until, like, just recently, is that, like, I think Transformers talk almost exclusively, like, in catchphrases.
Sure.
Because they always have to say something, like, related to, like, their species that's, like, it's like SpongeBob talk, where, like, instead of saying, "oh shit," they say, "oh barnacles," and in Transformers, it's like, "I'm gonna kick his rear, his fender," or something like that.
Oh yeah, I used to know all of them. There's a lot of the Transformer curse words are kind of slang Transformer words. It's like how Star Wars now has the Dank Ferric. Like, God damn it, for their works. Like, Transformers absolutely has all that kind of stuff.
Which is funny also because at some point someone does say shit in the movie.
That's also the thing that I totally must have forgotten about. It's like, there's definitely moments where, like, I think it's Hot Rod goes like, hold on, I have it written down here. But he goes like, "ah, shit."
Which, it's so funny because, like, there's so much, like, 1980s voice acting going on, but then the way he says "oh shit" just sounds so genuine. And it was just, like, disorienting because, again, you have, like, an entire movie whereas, like, you know, like, "spark my circuits, this shit's ridiculous," and then having him actually say, like, "oh shit," it was just, like, so bizarre. But
it's Spike says, "oh shit," after the bomb didn't work when they tried to have Unicron eat it, and it's just out of nowhere and hilarious just because there's silence, and they're like, "oh shit."
Like it's just, oh man. That's another, like, everyone talks about, like, how kids reacted to, like, the death scenes. I want to hear, like, what the audience reaction was to when a character says "oh shit" in the movie. But yeah, and with that, there is a lot of elements here that I'm like, there's emotion that like genuinely does connect, like, you know, the death of Optimus Prime, I think really works. But I think part of that is just because Peter Cullen is like an all-timer voice actor.
Absolutely.
Like, again, this is the way I put it. This is the way I see it, at least, right? Everyone on this series is doing, like, is kind of, like, playing it up a bit. Like, Hot Rod is, like, kind of, like, a dude bro-y sort of, like, whoa, guys, we gotta get this going, But, like, Peter Cullen is, like, treating the shit like it's Shakespeare.
Well, it's also interesting. I didn't show you this part, but in this, the documentary, The Toys That Made Us, Peter Cullen talks about how he got his voice for Optimus, and it was that his brother was a veteran and had a lot of the same qualities that he saw in Optimus. So it was kind of his Optimus voice is a tribute to his brother.
That is interesting, and honestly, that's just a testament to Peter Cullen as a voice actor, because he's able to put what is your character? I'm the leader of a bunch of big robots that can turn into vehicles, and give it like actual nuance to it, because again, that aspect of his performance is very apparent even as like they're doing like the death scene and he says his final goodbyes.
Yeah.
But with that being said, he dies 20 minutes into the movie.
Insane.
And we then have to have the rest of the movie with some dudes, basically. Like, Hot Rod is like the only character that I can think of that has much of an actual arc. Like, the other ones are like, you know, they're
Ultra Magnus has a sad arc where he tries his best and just fails and goes, I guess this is yours now.
Ultra Magnus is the Transformers fail son, basically. But yeah, that is like the second most clear arc in the film. Is Ultra Magnus just sucks and he has to accept that as a fact.
And I guess you could also argue Cup in his one line of like, I knew you had it in you, kid. No, you fucking didn't.
Bullshit. I call bullshit on that. It's so fake.
Which I'll also say, the Cup Hot Rod dynamic was hilarious. Because, like, especially when, like, right after Hot Rod saved him from that fucking octopus thing.
Yeah.
I have it written down that, like, immediately after that, Cup is giving him shit and insulting him for how he reassembled him. But then 2 seconds later compliments him on doing a good job. It's the most 180 turn. Like,
his character to me is like the dad who's kind of disappointed that his son is like completely worthless, but the fact that he tried, he's like, whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
But speaking of characters, this is again me just being very like uneducated necessarily in like Gen 1 Transformers specifically, but there's two characters I want to discuss in this universe, which is Grimlock and RC, and what their existence means in this. I think I'm gonna start with Grimlock, because like I can understand why he exists in a merchandise standpoint, but like
from a lore standpoint.
but why does he exist?
Yeah. So I'm gonna. Cause here's the other thing in my brain is I know so many different interpretations of Grimlock. I might be quoting like one of the other interpretations, not G1. But I guess the one that I've always latched on to is the fact that they're Transformers who... So again, the G1 takes place where, you know, Cybertron is dying, Transformers crash land on Earth, and they're kind of asleep in hibernation for a long, long time, and then they wake up and scan the vehicles.
Yeah.
I think the idea behind the Dinobots, and again, maybe this isn't the G1 interpretation, it's another one, is they're Transformers who arrived on Earth, but they didn't go into hibernation because they transported separately. So they were there during the time of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So that's what they were able to transform into, and then they just said, fuck it, why would I turn into a truck when I could be a goddamn T-Rex?
Why would I be like just some car when I could be like the biggest creatures in mankind? And
there's also a chance, I think some interpretations have said that they're kind of like not exactly Cybertronian, they're like a slightly offshoot type of thing.
Yeah.
Because you even see in the movie there's a lot of not Cybertronian robots in there. Like Retgar and his folk on that Garbage Planet.
Yeah, the
or,
Garbage Planet people. Yeah,
the Sharkticons, which is
Yeah.
a stupid name, to where like they're Transformers, but I don't think they're technically Cybertronian.
yeah.
So that might also be the case with the Dinobots. I don't remember the G1 lore explanation, but
I will say, like, at least that clears it up a bit for me, because that does make sense. Like, they just kind of got to Earth a bit early, decided to make their point of reference the other, like, dinosaurs there. But I just think that it's funny that they decided, yeah, we're also gonna make them, like, really dumb.
oh yeah,
Like, they speak in the third person.
yeah. Again, it's another one of my problems, and I have a lot of problems with the Bay films. But like, I don't like. Here's another thing I realized while watching the movie. There's a world where Michael Bay could have done a really legitimately good job with the Transformer movies, because on paper he makes sense as a choice to direct one.
Yeah.
With how he does action that translates to Transformers. But even if you watch this movie, some of this humor, if you didn't give it to the humans and you gave it to the robots, would fall in line with some of the Bay humor.
Actually,
but instead, Bay gave that type of humor to the humans and gave the Transformers the racism? Like, what?
Yeah, like, basically it's like, how about I switch out, like, dumb, silly, quirky kind of, like, robot slapstick with racism, and it's like, dude, I don't even think these robots have a concept of race.
Like, Grimlock is... I love the interpretations where Grimlock is just dumb and hilarious, but also, like, you can't mess with him because he's tough.
Yeah.
And he's not smart, but he's also stubborn, and when he's right, he's right.
Yeah.
And I think you see that a bit in this film. But also characters like Blur. This reminded me, like, why haven't we seen Blur in live action? Because, A, he's just funny, and I feel like he's a character that this generation would latch on to, of, like, very fast talking. Let me help. What can I do? Like, when he's trying to load Grimlock on the ship and just gets so frustrated. Like,
yeah, like, he won't move. Also, was he the Micro Machines guy? Was that his voice?
Oh, maybe. I actually don't remember.
Because, again, this might just be an assumption, but, like, my assumption is, because of how fast he talks, I was just like, I feel like that's probably the Micro Machines guy.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
But, yeah, so, like, Grimlock as a character is interesting to me, just because it's like, yeah, like, it is, like, they are technically also, like, Transformers. They're just very much, like, a different section of it. Also, when you're talking about, like, Grimlock being not very smart, but being very strong, so no one really messes with him, he makes a Of Mice and Men reference at one point in the film, and I had to pause and go back to make sure I heard it right, because it was something like, I think they were, like, all trying to go to sleep or something, which, why do Transformers sleep? Do Transformers dream of electric sheep? Who knows? But it was something along those lines, and it was either that or it was one of the characters talking about, like, war stories, essentially.
Oh yeah. Cup and how he's seen everything except for when Unicron transforms.
Yeah. When he's telling, like, stories, and Cup was talking about, I think fucking Grimlock, yeah, said something along, "Tell me about the rabbits, Cup," and I had to pause and be like, did they really just do that? That's hilarious, actually. But with with Grimlock, yeah, like, I can understand that, because marketing wise, boys like, you know, dinosaurs. But with RC, I understand merchandise perspective why she exists. Because it's like, we kind of have a series that's, like, ostensibly entirely marketed to boys, but, like, we should tap into a possible, like, female demographic. But I'm more interested in, like, the robots have gender. it's not, like, ambiguous that, like, RC is a girl because they made her literally pink and have robot lipstick. So I'm like, what is gender in the Transformers universe even? Like, for real?
Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine it's just programming, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, RC's not the only female Transformer. She's probably the most popular one. But, like, there's even some other, like, villainous ones, like, what's her name? Arachnid or something is another. She's essentially again, it's one of those weird things. It depends on your what source material you're looking at, but it's the ones that I'm thinking of. I don't think she's technically a Decepticon, but she's a bad guy essentially.
Yeah, kind of
but
like
she transforms into a giant spider.
Yeah, like kind of a neutral ground, but like neutral evil, basically.
Mm-hmm, yeah, not a Decepticon, but also just wants to kill people and do stuff. And I think she has teamed up with the Decepticons and some stuff, but I can't remember if I don't even know if she was a G1 character or not. I think she might have come later, but either way, there are other female characters in Transformers, like all the ones in Revenge of the Fallen. RC was one of those in Revenge of the Fallen, the pink motorcycle.
Yeah, yeah.
But then Chroma, Alita, there's some other ones as well, but those are the ones that I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's just a programming thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means in terms of reproducing, because I'm pretty sure the planet Cybertron Primus, there's no birth, essentially. It just kind of happens through the planet.
Yeah. The planet is the one that births you, ostensibly.
Yeah. So I don't think that there's no reproduction amongst the male-female, but there are male and female Transformers.
Yeah, which I find kind of interesting, because, Gen 1 is sort of, archaic in the way it does it, because it is, we have all of these robots that are kind of male, and then there's kind of just token girl there, because they're we probably should not have this just be entirely a sausage fest, but they also did in the most bare minimum way possible. But also just from knowing I don't know how much comics are seen as canon in terms of Transformers lore, but I do remember hearing something about they kind of did delve a bit deeper into that in a way that's kind of interesting, because it was so do the robots have gender? And then one of the comics answers was ostensibly no, not really, but yeah, kinda. So I'm just fascinating. What an utterly fascinating concept for robots that can turn into cars.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on the material you're looking at, but also they have done relationships amongst the Transformers. I'm pretty sure RC and Optimus were a thing at one point, or RC with other characters. That's
fair. Honestly, you want to know what my point of reference is for most Transformer stuff is the 2007 animated series.
I'm glad someone else remembers that, because that's so much of my baseline as well.
Yeah,
it's actually that show messed me up with Ultra Magnus, because I don't know if you remember. Ultra Magnus is the leader of the Autobots in that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's what it was in the original 2000 show, was they had that, which when you watch this movie it's so fucking weird, because wait, no, it's now the reverse. What?
Yeah. So in G1, Ultra Magnus is essentially Optimus' second in command, the most loyal. I've seen people compare him to Captain America. He's just kind of soldier's soldier.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the 2007 series, he's the actual commander, leader of the Autobots on Cybertron, and Optimus is essentially just the commander of the Earth-based outpost.
Yeah.
Which that show also messed me up with Sentinel, because Sentinel and Optimus are rivals in that show.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not the case in any other interpretation.
Yeah, no, it's just that one, and then you're wait a minute, I thought that they were... No? Okay. Alright, fine. But I don't know, I think about that show in specific just because there's a lot more discernible character work and specifically designs also, because when I tried watching this film, I'm not gonna lie, there are several points when it's the main couple of characters I can sort of differentiate, but then there's a point where I'm just I don't know who it is because they haven't talked yet.
Yeah, because you get so much of the personality through the voice and what they say and how they say it, as well as the design. But you're right, and I think the number of Transformers is always key.
Yeah.
I like that 5 number, because it's what Michael Bay had in the first Transformers movie. I'm pretty sure it was 5 in the 2007, because it was Optimus, Prowler, Bulkhead, Bumblebee, Ratchet.
Yeah. So it's easier to differentiate it when it's there, but then because this movie kills out so many characters and has to reset everything, I'm just I have no fucking clue who anyone is besides Hot Rod and Cub, and that's about it.
Yeah, and that's also a large part because they get half the screen time, because they're the only 2 on their a plot.
Yeah,
know?
and then with Decepticons, like, it's easy to follow with, like, the Decepticons because ostensibly Megatron gets just turned into Galvatron, and then Starscream is there and then dies, and then Soundwave just has the funny voice that and also turns into a cassette player.
Can you name the 2 servants that Unicron created for Galvatron?
Bill and Ted, I don't know.
Yeah, Cyclonus is one of them, and that's the one that I always remember. But the more iconic one, I always forget his name. Scourge, that's his name. Scourge. Him and Cyclonus are the 2 servants that were created.
Interesting. It's weird. I don't even remember those characters, if I'm gonna be honest. Like,
yeah. Well, they were 2 of the new toys that they were trying to launch with Galvatron.
Maybe it's because I'm, like, having, like, old person brain now as a 23-year-old, but, like, I like, what's the point of having, like, new characters that you want to sell for children if you don't even remember them?
Yeah.
But, like, yeah. There's a couple of other, like, one of the only other characters that I do remember, not because I actually remember their name, but because it's Eric Idle, is the Dumpster Planet people.
Yep.
Redgar. Because, like, so, like, it seems like all the Transformers have at least some kind of distinctive thing about the way they talk, and, like, this character is, like, TV slogans, like, repeated, like, over one another ad nauseum. And it's just weird because I'm, like, imagine you're, like, Eric Idle. You're like part of the most famous, like, comedy troupe, like, ever, and they come in and and they just turn on a TV and be like, say some of these slogans but in, like, a funny voice, and Eric Idle's like, all right, I guess I'll do it. And you get your paycheck and then you leave, and then you be like, hey, I wonder what happened to that movie I made, and then you look at it as like, I got turned into, like, a dumpster man with a long mustache.
Yeah, I'll say I was proud of myself that I think I recognized at least 95% of all the Transformers that were on screen in that movie. So I did not expect that going into it. I expected that I would know, like, I can name, like, 8 of them, but yeah. I ended up being much better.
Well, honestly, well, that's because, like, you are a true scholar. That's why I have you on this podcast in the first place, is for you to, like, translate what, like, this shit even means to me. Because, like, again, my point of reference is Beast Wars in the 2007 series, so this shit means nothing to me. But it is interesting, I guess. Like I think, again, Hot Rod has, like, the most full arc of any of the characters, and I actually do enjoy it because, like, I remember when I first watched this, I kind of thought that Ultra Magnus, right, who was the person that gets passed down the reins as, like, the leader, like, you know, it would be like I'm just not confident in myself and I can't be the leader. It's like, no, you can, you got this, and he becomes leader at the end. His arc is, I suck at being a leader. Someone else do this, please. Yeah. I literally died.
And he gets fucking massacred.
Yeah,
like, that's such a brutal scene.
Yeah, and it's kind of effective in that sense because, like, you know, what would convince a leader that they are not equipped to be a leader? It would be their previous leader died literally yesterday, and the minute he's leader, he dies as well.
Yeah, and he's begging for the Matrix to work. Like,
yeah,
it's so.
And again, I thought, like, okay, he's gonna grow from this, right? No, he's just like, this shit sucks. I'm out. Please, someone else.
Yeah, this thing broke. We gotta...
Matrix broke. Fair enough. Have a nice day. But, yeah, it's... I don't know. I think, if nothing else, I find that an interesting arc. That it is, like, no, someone else who is more apt to be a leader kind of has to just discover that for themselves rather than, like, character forces themselves to be a leader.
Yeah, and I'll say also, the first time I saw this movie, I hated it because of the whole Optimus guys, and I couldn't get attached to Rodimus as the leader of the Autobots going forward.
Yeah.
And again, I think, you know, I was in early high school or middle school at that point in time. So it's one of the things where I just couldn't kind of accept the movie for that.
Yeah.
Rewatching it now, I actually appreciate it a lot more. And actually really enjoyed my screening of it.
Yeah, that's very fair. I'd say for me, it's like, I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it, just on like a kind of surface level, like, you know, big robot action storyline, because again, my exposure to G1 was like pretty minimal, so to speak. And I guess some of the knowing of the production history kind of sours me a little bit on this, even though they're like, these are characters that I don't have any personal connection with whatsoever, but I just do find like the fact that, again, killing off all these characters to bring in new characters, and it also just like, it is kind of exhausting as a watch through in a way, because stuff is always happening and characters are just like constantly like dying back and forth. Again, I mentioned the I'm the last survivor of my planet scene is like just like such a nihilistic moment for like this children's movie, and sometimes it kind of does feel like mixing fucking like vinegar and water at times, but like, yeah. I also find other aspects of it just interesting in other ways.
I like how weird they got with some stuff.
Yeah.
You don't get that in a lot of other Transformer mediums. Like the Quintessons, like I mentioned. Like,
yeah.
You don't see them very often anymore.
Yeah.
And having, like, the Dinobots is a big part of it. Where they're not just used as, like, look, T-Rex. Anyway, now back to what we're doing. Like, Grimlock actually has a good amount of speaking and
yeah,
a bigger role in saving Hot Rod and Cup and all that. And
yeah.
You get the Sharkticons, as weird as they are, and
yeah.
Wreck-Gar.
It is kind of like, it does feel in a lot of ways like the crew who made the show just kind of like going off on like all the stuff that they probably didn't get to do in like the series probably at one point or another, and really like letting it loose, even if at times it doesn't mix very well. Something I noticed while I was watching this in terms of editing is that this movie it feels like it's kind of edited like a TV episode, because there are random just like fades to black and then fades back up that are just like, wait, what? I thought this was a movie.
Yeah.
like I like watching it. I was like, I if I was watching this in the theater, I'd feel like once it fades to black, suddenly like trailers for like new movies are gonna come out like right after it. But like, another thing that's just kind of interesting to me is the thematic elements of this film. I guess to me, just like as kind of an outsider looking in on G1 Transformers, is sort of odd, and this kind of ties back to the G.I. Joe aspect of it that I find kind of interesting to me, because like, so something about mecha shows and series in a lot of ways is that like, even though Transformers is not really like mecha in like the most traditional sense of the word, because it's not about like piloting a robot, it's just living robots, but regardless, a lot of mecha shows have kind of been also kind of about warfare and like, you know, like combat against like two groups of people in some way, shape, or form. But like thematically, it has always kind of been like, the thesis of them is this shit sucks and this should never ever happen in the first place. And I just find it funny to me that Transformers initially started as like a G.I. Joe import, because to me Transformers is like, yeah, but we gotta do it though. Transformers! Because like, I mean, I guess I guess to me it's the way I kind of get it is because it's sort of accidental in the way it's done, because it's like, so we have Optimus Prime and Megatron, the type of status quo that is fighting each other, but the status quo is kind of broken when Optimus Prime dies and, you know, Megatron is turned into someone else. But the thing is, that status quo just then becomes the status quo again, because it's like, we've got a new Optimus Prime and a new Megatron, and they're still fighting. And literally the only thing that can, like, be any source of, like, big enough conflict to, like, stop this is, like, literally the death of planets. But, like, once that's over, it's like, you know, thinking about it now, it's like, the series from then on, it's like, but we still gotta fight, though. We got 2 more seasons of this shit, guys, come on. So I guess I just kind of find that element of it interesting, because again, like, thinking of it as like a G.I. Joe import, and G.I. Joe was like literally like, warfare is awesome, guys, it's the coolest thing ever, G.I. Joe. But like, now you're doing it with robots. But I don't know, it's just like interesting to me on like a thematic level, because like a lot of aspects of mecha have like military, but not as like, you know, a completely like positive thing. Whereas Transformers, it's like, yeah, characters die and there's a lot of violence, but you have rock music playing over the back of it, and you know, and they don't die in like a fashion that's like particularly sad, except for the one you're supposed to care about. It's just kind of like they die, and it happens. It's and I guess it's just kind of interesting to me, because I think about like some of the stuff that I watched as like a kid that has aspects of like warfare as like storytelling, but there is something more like nuanced that it wants to say about it. Like I don't know, like Avatar: The Last Airbender is kind of like an example that I would go to. Like I that's not like a show that's necessarily like a pro-war military sort of message, but like, you know, it still has aspects of like warfare as like a storyline. Whereas this is kind of just like the Decepticons and the Autobots, they just keep fighting. They will always keep fighting. And I guess it's like an interesting like, when I wonder what a Transformers story would be like, as like a, what if they're like, we gotta find a way to actually like end this somehow.
Yeah, and I know my favorite interpretations of Transformers, which you don't see as often, and I get why, because it's easy to just do the like, Optimus is good, Megatron is bad type of thing. But I love it, and you see it more in the comics, when it's less of the Autobots good, Decepticons bad, and it's more like just a political conflict. Like some of the more political thriller conflicts, where Megatron's not necessarily evil. He's just trying to do what he thinks is best for his people.
Yeah.
And he's willing to do whatever it takes to do that. And Optimus is kind of coming from a similar place, but he has a more, sounds weird to say humanistic approach, since they're not humans, but
yeah,
more humanistic side of it. And it's more of just kind of two opposing political views that are trying to find the middle ground, but one side is just less willing to.
Yeah, it's like it is not so like black and white in that presentation, which I find would be interesting as a concept, because like, I mean, again, this is a series made for children, so like you don't have to, but like the thing is like, I think a lot of the shows and stuff that we kind of appreciate more as adults is like the children's show that don't paint shit just completely like black and white, and like, you know, this you start off with like a series that literally names its villains the Decepticons, which, you know, it's like that doesn't paint them particularly nicely. But you know, that being said, in the show they literally are just like, we hate good.
Yeah, whereas like, I know I would love to do a film that's essentially the downfall of Megatron.
Yeah.
Where it starts out of he and Optimus are friends and kind of have similar wants, but Megatron's a little bit more stubborn and willing to do not so great things to get what he wants, and over the course of the film he kind of becomes so uncompromising that he kind of corrupts himself.
Yeah,
like, I think that's a more interesting approach on the character.
A kind of Anakin arc almost, where it's like, you know, like he does not start off as a complete just villain. There is good in him and like potential, but like aspects of his worldview kind of slowly corrupt him to that other side.
Yeah, and then I think from Optimus's side that adds another element that, again, even the Bay films tried to explore, but I just don't think they stuck the landing on, of the like, yeah, you used to be a friend of mine and now we're fighting to the death. Like the mental kind of struggle of that, of like, I don't really want to punch you because you still look like my friend.
Yeah.
But if I don't, you're gonna slaughter all these people.
Yeah. Also, that reminds me, I talk about the kind of like odd, like just continuous warfare aspect of Transformers, but like it's honestly probably a bit kinder here than it was in the Bay films, where like Optimus Prime is just a fucking like warlord almost in some aspects.
Especially for some reason, as I think just Bay, as the films got on, just got less kind of creative and wanting to do shit with Optimus. So it's like, and then he just fucking kills him, I guess.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where it's like, I can't tell what that's supposed to be saying, because like on one hand, if it's like intentional, it's like Michael Bay's like kind of view of the Transformers is something very deeply nihilistic, like even more so than like a film where like all the characters die because they're going to be replaced by merchandise. Like it is deeply cynical, or Michael Bay is just not a particularly like nuanced storyteller and was just like, fuck it, whatever.
Yeah. If I had to guess, my guess would be that he thinks of the action pieces and the stuff that he thinks would be cool first, and then just has the writers figure out how to get the characters from A to B and doesn't really care what they do with them.
Yeah, it's like, I want a reason for Optimus Prime to kill this. I don't even remember who the guy was in the third movie, but like this old, like...
It's that Sentinel.
Yeah, the Sentinel, yeah. This old guy. And they're like, fucking, he just kind of does, and Michael Bay's like,
works for me.
cool, yeah, shoot him in the head as he's like crawling on the floor in pain. Yeah, that's cool. Let's shoot it, guys. Which, like, here, like, there is a bit more empathy for some of the Transformers. I'm not gonna say, like, all of them, because, like, I mean, Starscream obviously gets, like, vaporized.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I saw Wheeljack got killed off screen, which baffled me, because he's like, I think the first... Oh man, I could be wrong. I think he's the first Autobot you see in the series. Because I think episode 1 opens on Wheeljack and Bumblebee on a mission.
I was going to say, I have watched the first 3 episodes, and I do distinctly remember that. If that is true, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I just, in one of the scenes, saw his body just on the ground, colorless.
Just there, a corpse. And honestly, that's like the perfect encapsulation of, like, that creative decision, because it's like, the first character you see of the first episode of this series, we forgot to even show him die. But it is interesting. Off topic to the main discussion that we were having, but I have to just mention, even though I think a lot of the dialogue in this film is just hokey as all fuck, there is one line that goes insanely hard, which is during the scene when one of the Sentinels is you know, the whole court stuff, and they bring Hot Rod in, and I think Hot Rod says just straight up, and something along the lines of, like, the judges are saying, like, you know, you'll be arrested for, like, contempt in court, and then he says, I have nothing but contempt for this court. And it was like, that kind of rules. Actually, that's a great line.
Yeah, they don't always stick to the landing, but I love the one-liners. Like, again, the Optimus and Megatron fight they had, like, that back and forth got me so excited.
Yeah, honestly, like, I like that back and forth. Like, again, like, their interaction in this film, like, it really does sell, like, kind of like old enemies, like, just on their last hinge of, like, we gotta fucking finish this because one of us is just we're too old for this bullshit.
And I feel like it sells another reason why you can't kill off Optimus, because after that point, when Galvatron has those lines, they don't hit the same.
Yeah.
And they come more off like shut the fuck up, Galvatron.
Yeah.
You got your ass whooped. Like, when you're like, I'll kill you like I killed Prime.
Yeah, it's like
shut the fuck. You shot him 3 times and then got your ass beat. Like,
yeah. Like, it's and that's, like, another issue with this thing is, like, you have characters that have been established for, like, years. Like, literally everyone knows who Optimus and Megatron are, but because you do, like, a switcheroo with them and have new characters, like, well, for one, Galvatron, I guess, kind of technically is Megatron, but, like, it not really, so it's, like, it's fishy. And then on the other side, you have new leader for, like, 20 minutes before he gets replaced by Hot Rod, so it's, like, there's not really much of an emotional connection there besides, like, you killed my leader. My leader died because of you. Fight. So, like, it feels a bit hollow in that regard. With that said, though, I will say this. Again, Hot Rod having the best arc in the film is kind of to the film's benefit, because when they do the second instance of the "You Got the Touch" song when he's like
becomes Rodimus Prime.
Yeah, like, that actually hits. Like, that shit hits very effectively, I think, for the moment. But yeah, it's just very clunky in that regard of, like, who is the protagonist in this story, which, like, once you realize, it's like, yeah, that makes sense, because it's kind of established since the very beginning that, like, Hot Rod would be kind of a prominent character, because, like, I mean, he hangs out with the human child. Obviously, he's going to be a major character. but it takes a while for that to become kind of clear.
Yeah, which I'll also say, watching this movie, it reminded me why, aside from the, like, Michael Bay films, I've never seen Bumblebee as one of the, like, main Autobots.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't really as much in G1. Like, even in this
Yeah.
movie, he has, 4 minutes of screen time hanging out with Spike?
Yeah, like literally, like, yeah, he's off almost dying with Spike for most of this movie, and we don't even really see that happening.
Whereas I feel like Hot Rod's role in this movie is kind of more what we've seen Bumblebee become in more recent interpretations.
Yeah, almost kind of like a prototype for like what Bumblebee would become.
Yeah.
Which is fair, I guess. I guess it's just like Hot Rod's design is like kind of generic, I guess, in comparison to like Bumblebee, which is like yellow car named Bumblebee. That's very distinctive. That's very clear. And it's like he's a hot rod named Hot Rod. It's like, oh, all right, cool, whatever. But yeah, it's fascinating to me. I guess it's just there's so much going on in this movie. Every single frame is so tense. Which, speaking of, I guess I do kind of like the aesthetic of the film. I think because like it's just a product of its time, obviously, but like the '80s kind of like sheen to it is like really kind of fun and enjoyable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed with a lot of sequences of the film, it really felt like a kid playing with toys. Like anytime the cars were driving around, they didn't follow the road. They kind of went up the side of the wall and back on the road. And
there's a real personality to even like the way they're animated and drive kind of thing.
Yeah, it feels childish and fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that element is like it really gets to like the heart of like what makes these like this concept appealing in the first place. But yeah, I think to me it is just like one of those things where it's like knowing the intent of the creative decisions, even though like I don't think for most people they should base their entire feelings on a movie on like what the creative intent of the film was, but I will say knowing what it was kind of did change it a bit for me this time around. So like I think it's still fine. It's a still fine movie as like a fun robot adventure film, but it is just still a bit distracting to just think about like some of the creative decisions behind this, if nothing else.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why I wasn't a big fan the first time I saw it. I think now I just kind of appreciate the more kind of fun adventure nature after seeing some of the, Michael Bay films, and I still have to see Rise of the Beast, but it kind of reminded me of like the feeling I get when I like Transformers. Like what Travis Knight did with the Bumblebee film. Yeah. And that idea of it, there's some cool action spectacle that you can have, but when you just kind of ground it and have it be this fun relationship between other robots, like again, the thing I loved about this film is compared to the Michael Bay films, whereas so much of the film is just humans talking and then you have the robot standing for the action scenes. This film you had 2 humans, one of which you barely saw and the other you got more time with, but the whole rest of it is just the Transformers interacting with each other, which I forgot how much I missed. Yeah,
I was going to say, it's like, I'm surprised we really haven't gotten much of any Transformers, like, in live action, media that tries to attempt to, like, actually just do all of the Transformers just really, like, interacting off of one another rather than having human characters kind of have to be, like, your audience surrogate character, which it's just kind of funny to me because I can imagine, like, the studio executive sitting there discussing the film with, like, we gotta have people to relate to, but the robots are like people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, like, I mean people, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I've always used, like, the Planet of the Apes films as a comp for what I think a good Transformers movie should be. Yeah. Because when you watch the new Planet of the Apes movies, you relate to the apes more than you relate to the people.
Yeah, no, like, they're, and they are so much more fleshed out, and also just, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, more so, like, in the last 2 of the Planet of the Apes films, every time I saw a human, I just went, God damn it. Yeah. So, like, I feel like it's kind of appropriate to have that for, like, a Transformers films, because you want to know why? I was thinking that even in the regular Transformers live-action movies, which is like, God damn it, we got human people again.
Yeah. So if you kept that and got rid of some of the dumb nonsense, like the universal greeting, I hated that in this movie.
Oh yeah, the fucking I distinctly remember even on my first watch of this film being like, what?
Yeah, but then you can still keep the humor in terms of characters like Blur and Grimlock and that type of stuff. That's great.
Yeah.
But I think you could have a really fun Transformers movie that can do something a little bit more mature for your older people who grew up on Transformers, but still have enough there that kids can see characters like Optimus and Megatron and some of the cool action and still get something a little bit more sophisticated out of it.
Yeah, like, it's just mind-boggling to me. Like, this is the easiest concept in the fucking world to make both, like, kind of cool, gritty, like, and intense, but still, like, appropriate for children and still make it good. Like, why did it take Travis Knight to do it? And why did it have to only really have just, like, one or two, like, actual Transformers in it? Why can't we have, like, a Gen 1-esque, like, structured film that's still fun and engaging and has a bit more depth to it? Like, it's not that hard, guys.
Call me, Paramount.
Literally call him, dude. I'm begging you. You're like, oh man, I don't know why our most recent Transformers film wasn't doing that well. And it's like, dude, stop making it happen on Earth.
Yeah.
No one cares.
My dream film would be, I guess I shouldn't do my whole pitch now, but would be ideally a Cybertron film.
Yeah.
Because again, going back to the political side of it, there's so much more that you can do there.
Yeah, and also I'm like thinking of more aspects of like the human aspect of it and how like completely worthless it is. Like the highest grossing movie of all time is James Cameron's Avatar, a movie that is almost exclusively about aliens. Like, and when humans do show up, they are the villains. Mm-hmm. So like we live in a world where we're like doing a Transformers film should be easy, because for one, CG is like a big process to do when you're doing like fleshy human like skin, but the thing is you just got a bunch of big robots. The most complicated thing is like the transforming, like the actual animation of them. So like why haven't we done this yet? Why?
Yeah.
But, you know, also, then again, as we've kind of come to realize, I don't think movie studios that have the money to greenlight a Transformers movie are particularly smart about making most movies in general. As, you know, as for this is going to be like make no sense to anyone who wasn't watching this in like 2023, but like, you know, it shouldn't be that hard, and yet it is. That's all I'll say. But with that said, do you have any extra thoughts that you want to add on to the film that we haven't covered?
Let me double check, but I don't think so. I think I got a lot of my stuff out of the way. Other than a few little comments I made while I was watching the film. Like, I love seeing the Dinobots versus Devastator. That's always fun.
Yeah.
Man, imagine Devastator without nutsack hanging from him. Crazy. I love how much of a bitch Starscream is in this. Like, I love when interpretations just embrace that part of Starscream's character. Like, the exact moment I wrote down is how he's shit-talking the Autobots as he's chasing them, and then 2 seconds later he falls into a trap and has to shoot off his foot to get out of it.
I think I literally wrote down, like, the same thing, actually. Yes, Starscream is a bitch, and knowing where I wrote that, it was around basically that same point in time.
Yeah, like, I love all that. Another moment that I'll just comment on is I thought it was probably unintentionally hilarious, but that moment when Spike is yelling at Daniel to shoot the cover so he doesn't die.
Yeah, yes.
Because we cut from Daniel being like, Dad, I don't know how, to Spike being like, just shoot it! Just fire at it, please!
I love that bit so much because, like, the voice actor goes, like, so hard for no reason and just makes it sound genuine. He's like, please!
He's just begging for his life.
He's just, like, fucking, like, he just yells, hurry!
Yeah. Another one I have written down is the Wheelie Dinobot scene was very stupid, but very funny as well.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
And just when Grimlock, I also love the way that Grimlock talks. Me Grimlock think.
Yeah.
But how he tells the Sharkticons of like, why fight us? Fight that dickhead.
Yeah, like he diverts the enemy off to someone else and is like, damn, I didn't think you were that smart enough to think about that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think those are all my comments. And here's another one I've written down that I'll just read. Is that I do love just how much personality a lot of the Transformers have in terms of like, you have to hear them talk a bit first, but just like, once you start getting a feel for Cup's character, you know who he is. And like, even Ultra Magnus, you get the sense of who he is. Like, I feel like you lose that in a lot of the live action movies just because it's so human focused.
Yeah.
They don't have enough time to talk and develop their personalities. Blur's another great example.
Yeah.
Blur, you immediately get his personality.
Yeah, it is like apparent the minute he just starts talking.
And I feel like you've lost so much of that and again, I haven't seen Rise of the Beasts, but from the other ones I've seen, I feel like you lose a lot of that in the newer interpretations.
Yeah, I very much agree with that, because like, like, we gotta invest a lot of time into like Sam Witwicky, a character that everyone cared about when they saw Transformers. Everyone cared about him totally. But yeah, like, it is just kind of odd that like there isn't really that much emphasis on the Transformers in a series called Transformers, besides Optimus and Bumblebee in like a kind of surface level sort of deal. Also, the only thing I'll add is near the end of the climax, I think it was absolutely hilarious that like while I think it was like Hot Rod is getting choked out by fucking Galvatron, it just fades to black like it's an episode of the show. And I'm just like think about it like this, like Star Wars is kind of known for like the finding the peak of the action and cutting away from it. Imagine like fucking during the middle of like Luke about to like fall off the shaft during Empire Strikes Back, it just cuts to the B plot. And just
there's some weird editing with that. I remember that now.
Yeah. But that's ostensibly all I have to say. How about we give our final thoughts on the film? I'll let you go first.
Sure. Yeah. We've definitely kind of gone on and on about some of the gripes we have with it, but also some of the things that we enjoy. And I think watching this, I enjoyed the movie more than I did my last watch through, for sure. I think mainly just because we haven't gotten, at least I haven't gotten this kind of feeling watching something Transformers related in quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of just some of the other animated stuff, like the 2007 series and Transformers Prime, that show, and just the kind of more fun and weird things you can do with Transformers, as opposed to a lot of the more boring human stuff we've gotten recently.
Yeah.
I mean, even Transformers Bumblebee, which is my favorite of the Transformer movies, you do spend still even with that a lot of time on the human side of stuff. And it is I do love that relationship that Haley Steinfeld's character has with Bumblebee, but it's also just nice to see Transformers interacting with other Transformers.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel like I haven't gotten enough of. So I just really enjoyed that aspect of the film, despite some of the dumb stuff like the universal greeting and all that.
Yeah, or the odd sound design choices.
Mm-hmm.
So my final thoughts on the film. It's good, but it's no Beast Wars. Which, maybe that'll be an episode. Maybe I'll do a series of just covering all of Beast Wars, but I don't really anticipate doing that anytime soon. But all right, now we get to the thing that everyone has been waiting for. Everyone who watches this podcast only listens for these last couple of minutes, which is rank that mecha. But the thing is, the issue here is there's fucking like 100 of them.
Yeah.
There's so many. If we like, look, it's we've been recording for like 80 minutes. It would take like 3 times that amount to actually like rank the individual ones, because we would be spending time having to look up which each one was. So I've decided we're gonna do it like this. We're gonna rank it by our top 3 from Autobots and Decepticons.
And just for clarification, more so on my part here, are we ranking them just in the content of like this movie or pulling from any G1 stuff as well?
Just specifically this movie.
Okay.
And the criteria, and this is what I'll say, the criteria is not about character, it's not about like, you know, how they affect the plot. It is on a surface level, how cool are they?
Oh, awesome.
How cool is their design?
Gotcha.
But to be honest, even doing a top 3 is hard because I still kind of don't remember many of them.
All right. So are we going back and forth with this, or what's the flow like?
I think I'm gonna start with my top 3 Decepticons because that's gonna be the hardest for me to actually like remember. I think number 3 would have to be fucking Galvatron, just because he is like, you know, one of the more notable characters in the film, so like it's easier to remember him. But like I think also he is an interesting kind of like update on Megatron in some ways, and also like, you know, this really shouldn't have an effect on it, but I'm just gonna say it regardless. I think it's cool that he's voiced by Leonard Nimoy. I think that is at least a nice aspect to it. Number 2, and this is kind of a joke choice, but I'm still going with it, is Starscream, because I enjoy his design and also kind of just the fun stuff that he does is like that with that design.
His king outfit that he dies wearing.
the king outfit is so fucking hilarious. And my number 1 is Soundwave, because he's a cassette. He turns into a cassette. That's great. Like,
Cassette Man.
Like we were watching the documentary and his original name was Cassette Man, and I was like, I mean, you're not wrong, I guess. So those are my top 3 Decepticons in the film.
Yeah, okay. I think I got my 3 now. I've been banging them around. My number 3 would probably be Devastator. Just because, again, I love the classic look of the green Constructicons forming him, and just the fact that, like, I think, not to compare it to the Michael Bay version, but I just kind of like the big mecha giant robot compared to the kind of more dog-like version we got before.
Yeah.
And again, like, I as a fan got hype when Megatron was like, we gotta break down this door! Constructicons! Create Devastator! And I'm like, oh shit, yeah. And just seeing them transform to Devastator and him just going to town on that wall. So Devastator would probably be number 3. My number 2 would be Soundwave. Just because, like, Galvatron looks cool, Megatron looks cool, all the Decepticons look cool, but in terms of, like, evil robot design, like, I think Soundwave's just design is great with the red visor that he sees through and the pointed head. Like, I think just he has a universally cool bad robot design.
Yeah.
And then my number 1, which I think I just have to give it to because its transformation sequence is just so cool and I love how slow it is, Unicron.
Yeah, I was gonna say Unicron was kind of up there for me, but I was also like, he's kind of more a neutral force, I guess. So like, it's hard to choose.
And I love the moment when he just slams his hand down on Cybertron, because that gives you such a cool sense of scale in terms of just how massive he is.
Yeah, I was gonna that is a very strong choice, I'd say. Now for Autobots, it's kind of hard for me to like remember all of the Autobots, so like partially it's gonna be on like the phaziest of memories, I think, but I'd say 3 would be Hot Rod, because like I think even though he is kind of generic, like sort of like race car aesthetic sort of thing, I think there is something kind of fun to his design in a way, and also just like a lot of the shots I think are just kind of fun with like the scenarios that he has, like the way that he animates while like driving, as we kind of talked about before, and also just the fishing that like I think the fishing did it for me a bit. For number 2 though, god damn it, I don't know, man. So controversial choice, maybe, but I'm gonna say Optimus Prime is number 2. Like, listen, I know all the other like I'm the new Optimus. No, I'm the new Optimus. But like, you can't really beat the original, I'd say.
No.
And I'm a little biased because like, I dressed up as Optimus Primus for Halloween once.
Same.
So like, it's like it's so ingrained that it's kind of hard to deny it. Number one, again, maybe controversial, Grimlock. Because he's just a fucking dinosaur. He's a robot dinosaur, alright? And that is, like, inherently unique among all of these character designs. And even though it is the most, like, 9-year-old boy speaking into my brain right now, I'm just like, cool, I like that.
Yeah, I actually have a fairly similar list there. I think the one change I have is my number 3 is Springer, who didn't have a lot of lines or much to do in this movie. He was there the whole time, though. He was the green Autobot who transformed into a helicopter.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought it was cool because you don't see many other Autobots who can fly and transform into something that can fly, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then I think he did in the movie, but I know his helicopter blades can turn into, like, a sword. And I'm pretty sure there was a moment when he was fighting off the Decepticons and you saw him use the sword.
Yeah.
So I just think that's just a cool design, being an Autobot who can fly and has a sword.
Yeah.
Then my number 2 would be Grimlock. Just because for that same just robot dinosaur thing. It's just cool. And just seeing him fight, like, again, I love the moment where I think it was Grimlock just rammed into Devastator early on.
That actually is like probably one of my highlights from the film is like that specific moment.
Yeah. And just the dynamic of Grimlock just being a fucking idiot in his conversation with Wheelie and all that, and with the other Dinobots, but also having the strategic thing of not wanting to get on the ship, but also the strategic side of convincing the Sharkticons to attack their master and all that stuff, and being a legitimate contender on the battlefield. I just love that. And then my number 1 would be Optimus, just because in this movie he's so badass when he just shows up on the scene and starts just blasting Decepticons. It's just so awesome, with you got the touch playing and all that stuff, and then even his fight with Megatron, he whoops Megatron's ass. And if it weren't for that blaster just lying on the ground there, Megatron would have been fucked.
I think honestly, you bring up a very strong point for Optimus, because another thing is I think the segment of the film with Optimus is the strongest segment of the whole film, because it is what you are looking for in this type of film, which is the drama and the kind of that sense of leadership that he gets throughout the story. So I'd say there's a strong case for him being probably the best from the film. But with that being said, that concludes our episode on Transformers the movie. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining me for this episode.
Thank you for having me.
And for everyone listening or watching, I hope you all have a wonderful Mecha and Monster Mondays. Peace.
It's a kid. There's some kid in the cockpit of the Gundam, sir.